everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Pop City with Melissa Neiderman
and Renae Madore.
And we are nervous.
Very nervous.
So we already did our pre-show stuff. So we're going to get right into introducing you so we don't take up so much of your time. I read the book, so I could talk to you forever, but we have 20 minutes.
Thank you, Melissa.
So
Bless you.
Let's get going. All right. He is a drummer, a photographer, a woodworker. He is a comedian, an actor, an activist, and so much more. He's learned from the past, plans for the future, but lives in the moment. Hey, this is it. We are honored to have Ed Begley Jr. with us on Pop City today. Welcome, Ed.
We're so happy to have you.
Thank you both. Thank you, Melissa. It's good to be with you.
Yes, this is great. So in the start of your book, you strongly suggest people reading Alan Watts. So now I'm like all over that. But his philosophy is live in the moment. When you discovered him, I think you said in the 1970s, was that something that resonated with you? Or were you someone who perseverated over the past, worried about the future? Is that why you
I did both those things, and also was incapable of just being here present with you, for instance, actually really listen to what you're saying to me, both of you, and vice versa, to pick my words carefully. Most importantly, be in the now. It was always going to get better later. The best example I can think of was a vacation I was taking with my first wife, my wonderful mother of my two grown kids, Ingrid. We had a trip planned up to Monterey. It was beautiful, and she wasn't packing the car right. You know, she was packing the suitcases in a bad manner, and I was reprimanding her for it and trying to get it right. Lots of mansplaining about stuff, how the suitcases go in, because we had to get up there. We had to get to Carmel for the vacation in Carmel, up in Monterey in Carmel, and that's when it's going to be good. And then I realized the vacation doesn't start in Carmel or Monterey. It starts right here in the driveway.
Exactly.
The driveway is part of indeed, this is part of my vacation in life right here, right now with you. This is a vacation, or call it whatever you want. This is a beautiful moment to be here with you lovely ladies, and I'm drinking it in every second. Rather than, what was the last interview like? What's the next one going to be like? I'm here with you now, and it's just gorgeous.
That is what the moment. So do you have to keep reminding yourself, or
constantly? If I'm talking to only one, if this is an audience of one right now, and I reach myself today, while talking to you, and I get to practice it properly, then I'm successful. If I reach anybody else with this message, that's gravy. I want to remind myself to be in the now and be present and filled with the bliss, which is being here, truly here with you both.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I'm so into that, because I am somebody who worries about the future and thinks about, what I did wrong yesterday. But right now, we're really excited to be here with you and to talk about this amazing book that you wrote.
And I'm one that lives in the moment, like yourself.
I
always try to live in the moment, because the key is for happiness is living in the moment. And a quick question about your book. So I know your wonderful daughter encouraged you to do the book. My question is, why did you want to write it yourself and not have a ghostwriter? I know your friend and your daughter helped you and encouraged you to get started on this, which is amazing.
It was only the act of preparing the notes for my daughter or ghostwriter when it occurred to me that I wanted to do it and do it alone.
That's fantastic.
She did a day, about an hour is all she could hold her arm up, and her battery life and data plan would allow for her to do about an hour of me talking about X, Y, and Z from my past. And so we did that. And then she's a young person. She had other things to do. And I went, before I forget, I'm going to write this other thing down. And that's when it happened.
Fantastic.
The computer keyboard became like a Ouija board that actually worked. It took me here and there. It took me up to the attic, down the basement, all these other places where all these mysteries were unpacked. And it was just wonderful. And I thought very quickly, within maybe an hour of doing that, I went, I don't want to give this to anybody, including my daughter. I mean, if I need some help, I'll certainly ask her and she'll help me. But I think I want to do everything of this myself. And I did. And it was a blissful project, because I did it just for myself. And then the way I did it for my kids and grandkids, that they'd have these stories from, my father's past and my grandparents coming over in a boat from Ireland and that sort of thing. If it was just for them, what I was writing, that was enough.
Congratulations.
Oh, and I love
That's
that.
great.
Now, speaking of your father, your dad is incredible, was an incredible actor of TV, film, theater, radio, and you mentioned him in the book, but I like to go deeper. My dad's a writer. So while you were writing about your dad, did you discover not only things about him? I don't know if you were looking and asking people, but did you also discover new feelings? Feelings
I
that
did.
you did.
Some feelings that I always, for years, I've talked in a very laudatory tone about my father and, glowing reports for everything. The truth was he had some big flaws, and I speak of them in the book as well. He had some big flaws. He was an alcoholic who got sober when I was about 2. For the second time, got sober for a number of years, and that sobriety carried through to his passing in 1970. So for most of my life, he was sober, but he had some, as many alcoholics and addicts do, there's some anger issues. When you lose your loved one, which is drugs and alcohol, you're in a period of mourning about that loss and that pain of losing that thing that you think is saving you, which of course is killing you. It's a very angry, boyfriend or girlfriend, depending on your point of view, that hurts you a lot. So I certainly had anger issues and a lot to learn myself when I got sober. And that was, that played itself out in my first marriage. And I saw in that things my dad had done, which he needed work on. But the truth was, at the end of the day, plus and minus, he did a wonderful job with what he was given.
Right.
Really, he did very good for what he was dealt. And I'd like to think I did the same.
And I was going to ask you that. How do you feel? Because it was almost, you fell into that same pattern, and that is quite common. Alcoholic parents, the child might become also alcoholic. So looking back, do you see a lot of similarities?
A lot. And he was not a gambler, but other things I had. He was clearly a philanderer. He had 2 children, my sister and I, out of wedlock. He was married to another woman,
right.
Quite actively married and known to be married to this wonderful woman, Amanda. And he had 2 children with a woman who was a page at NBC, my biological mother. And to this day, I don't know all the details, how much my biological mother, Sandy, knew about Amanda, who I thought to be my mother, and what Amanda knew about Sandy. I don't know what they knew about each other.
Right.
So that's something I hope there's a way to learn such things with what time I have left.
Right. And so that had to be emotional while you were writing all of this. I mean,
it was very emotional and, but cathartic. And I don't have a lot of, I don't really feel I have any anger in my heart for any of the people I just mentioned or anybody else for that matter. There's a lot of understanding, and forgiveness and these things if you do it right. And I'd like to think I'm doing some of it right.
Well, it sounds like in the book, and it's beautiful what you're bringing out to people and teaching people about how not to hold on to that hate and to learn from what you went through as well. So thank you.
Well, it's like, thank you. It's like drinking poison and expecting the other guy to die. It doesn't quite
right. Exactly.
That is true.
And forgiveness is for yourself. It's how you deal with it. And
exactly.
Yeah. Well, you have so many, so many people.
And
it's crazy.
And you've worked with so many wonderful, wonderful actors, including Carrie Fisher, Jack Nicholson. And I actually read that one of your, how can I say, somebody who inspired you the most is Joaquin Phoenix. Yes, he's a wonderful, wonderful actor. If you've seen his work, I'm sure you feel the same. He's amazing. Anything he does, The Master, the character he played in that, and Gladiator, and just pick a movie that he's in, he's just remarkable. And so I know him a bit and have always been drawn to his work and just think the world of him. People like that, I'm a fine actor, I'm okay, but I don't do work on that level. It's just amazing. People like that become the character. Daniel Day-Lewis and Viola Davis and Meryl Streep and these people that do that level of work is just simply amazing.
Yeah, they are. And you've started before you were actually a serious actor, you were a prop comedian, and you were with who a lot of people love, Michael Richards.
Yes.
And
right. We had a duo back in 1969.
You got to open up for a lot of up and coming musicians at that time.
Yeah, I did. Michael and I had a duo, and we never got any bookings except one 4th of July event at a park in Burbank that didn't go so well. But Yeah, we had
Oh,
American
yes, yes,
flags
yes,
in
yes. I read
cardboard
about that one.
boxes.
You dropped the flag.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
not good. It was like burning a flag back in
Oh my God.
1972. We tried a few times. He went off in to the army, so when he came back, we tried it again to work together. And my problem with him, he was so funny, such a great physical comedian, that I had trouble keeping a straight face with him. That was the biggest problem with the act.
I bet that was
But
great.
I opened for Don McLean, John Sebastian, Poco, Loggins and Messina, Dave Mason, Neil Sedaka, Canned Heat,
Oh, wow.
sometimes at a concert arena, sometimes at the Troubadour, the Ice House, or clubs like that. And I love doing stand-up, but then I got married and I realized I was trying to get sober, and finally did. But to try to get sober, well, your job takes you to what are really saloons. You're working in a saloon. That's what a comedy club is, and what a place like the Troubadour was back in the day. It's a nightclub, but you can also use the word saloon to describe it. So I needed to get away from that life, and it was also very hard work and carrying the props around. I went, there must be a better way. Until I write an act that doesn't have all those complications, I think I'll just work on TV and films.
Right. I like the story of you. I mean, I don't like that you got arrested, but the story of you being dressed in your LAPD prop costume and then you getting arrested. And
Right.
then you using your humor while you were in prison to befriend a man who actually helped you get through those days.
Right.
He did. He said, just tell everybody you're with me and you'll have protection. So it seemed to work. I kept him amused. I did some of my best comedy work ever for 3 days at county jail in Los Angeles.
Wow.
Did you always use your comedy, even as a kid, to get like your way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The nuns, when I was at risk of being punished or demeaned in some way, I would do something called the one-man band. I would play different instruments with my mouth and with my hands and what have you, and do this little routine. And the nuns would come out here in the hall, Mr. Begley. I thought, what did I do? I didn't do anything. I'm going to get the belt or what have you. Do that bit again. Do the thing with a one-man band. And the nuns would be holding their habits up to the mouth and laughing. Okay, go back to your classroom.
Oh, gosh.
I learned there was power behind laughter.
Right.
And there is.
Exactly.
And people tend to really gravitate toward people who are funny. And you become a very likable person, and you realize that young, I'm sure. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, you can entertain the troops. Yeah, it has some value in prison or at a Catholic school, but let me not repeat myself.
Well, you, like I said prior, so many people. What do you attribute that to? Is it because it was an intimate time in Hollywood, or is it because you were right place, the right time, or is it both?
There's a little bit of both. I literally feel like Zeliger, one of those characters, from a movie like that, or Chauncey Gardner or Forrest Gump,
right.
running through or walking through or appearing in all these important situations, historically and otherwise, and nobody's quite sure how I got there, including me. And meeting John Lennon and smoking a joint with Charles Manson and charging my car at O.J. Simpson's house to the wall where Cato Kalin heard the knocks and all that kind of stuff. Just Robert Blake giving me tips on getting rid of a gun in a dumpster. All those kinds of things were kind of amazing, things to be a part of, to be a witness to, not a part of. I wasn't a part of any
thank goodness.
the illegal behavior, of course, thank God.
Right.
But to be a witness to part of those people's lives, it's just extraordinary.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Did you? I mean, each time between Charles Manson, OJ, and Robert Blake, each time that their story came out, what they did you take a step back and go, what is the deal? Why am I meeting all these type
can I
of
believe with them?
It was 2 or 3 days that I remember was a period of time when lots of people like me, who knew nothing about the spousal abuse that was going on for years, I knew nothing about it. And I was a friend of sorts of OJ's. I didn't know that, but for 2 or 3 days, not knowing that, we're all going, say it ain't so. It couldn't have been. Somebody set him up or whatever. We were thinking crazy thoughts like that, when in fact it came out quickly. There were 38 pieces of physical evidence that tied him to the murders. Right. Hair, fiber, blood. The glove had all 3. It had Nicole's DNA, Ron Goldman, and it had, his hair, OJ's hair, and fiber from the Bronco. Right. So that's why they had to demean the glove. I don't want to rehash the trial thing, but we all were pulling for this guy that we love so much.
Sure.
But after 2 or 3 days, you have to, when it's clear that someone did something like that, you have to, I think, stand up and say that, you know, that's unacceptable.
And that's
Sure.
difficult. My parents were friends with Nicole's parents, so yeah, it was a difficult time. Yeah,
Very difficult. I know her family, and I know Ron Goldman's family a bit, and it's very difficult, of course. Still, I'm sure.
All right.
I know we don't have too much time left, but we want to get into the environmental issues that you're passionate about. And I know that you and Bill Nye are the carbon footprint. Now, who's ahead? Are you guys tie? Or are you?
It was neck and neck for years because I lived in a home nearly identical to him. But keep in mind, back then, he was just one guy in a house, so his usage was much less. I had 3 people in the house, Hayden, Rochelle, and me. So there's that. Per capita, I was doing very well. But now he's married, so he's got 2 people there. But I'm the one that really cheated. I totally cheated. I went and built a new LEED platinum home. You can't touch me now, Nye. Come on, come after me. You can't touch me.
I love it. I actually used Bill Nye. I was a teacher for 21 years. I used all of his shows to help me teach science. So he's an awesome man. So I'm glad
he is. I love him. He's a dear friend.
And I was so, I'm sorry. I was so impressed that you went to the Academy Awards 2023 public transportation. I'm like, right on. That's wonderful.
I've done it many times. I've gone by the subway to get to the awards. You have to get off a stop early because otherwise the subway exit comes up right in the middle of the red carpet. They can't have that. So you get off at what's called the Vine Street exit. And then you Vine Street station, then you just walk over. If you got a real willing partner like my daughter Hayden, who is willing to take off her high heels and wear these little moccasins and walk to the Oscars in moccasins and put on the heels again.
That's fantastic.
I love that. I love that. Did your environment activism, did it affect your work? Did a lot of people didn't want to be around you or didn't want to hear about it?
Yeah, it wasn't like I was blacklisted. My name wasn't on a list in a drawer somewhere, do not hire. But I know I gave people the creeps. They thought I would come up to them and go, "You're a bad person being in that SUV or getting out of that limo. You're ruining the planet." I don't operate like that. I do what I do and I invite everybody to join and do it with me if they're of a mind, but I'm not confrontational in that way. I don't think it gets a lot of people on your side.
Right.
So
smart.
When people figure that out, they started to hire me again. But most importantly, before you get to that, Chris Guest is the one that broke me out of movie jail because he put me in Best in Show. Ever since that, I've been working again in movies.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And what a great guy to be with. I know, you had your 15 seconds in Spinal Tap, which is hysterical.
Yes.
Right.
That's so good.
Great moment.
I know it wasn't Chris, but you were in Future Man with a friend of ours, Carolyn Hennessy. So
yes. What a wonderful show. I
love that show.
Yeah.
So good. So clever. Seth Rogen, my God.
Yes.
Yeah. So you were really in some iconic movies and shows. And I know we didn't get to touch on your biggest Saint Elsewhere. Yeah, everybody knows about that.
Favorite shows.
Yeah, but there's so many other, like you said, the Best in Show, A Mighty Wind. My goodness.
I'm very lucky to be 74 years old and still be getting calls from people like that, to be in Better Call Saul and to be in Young Sheldon. And I'm just a lucky old codger.
Yeah. And I hope, are you still working? Are you still?
I am. Nobody's working now,
obviously,
that's the strike. So, but that I hope we resolve that soon. I'm sure we will.
Right. Right. Well, I hope that everyone grabs the opportunity to read your book. For me, it was enlightening. I am now obsessed with Alan Watts. I love your stories. I would love to sit with you and we could talk for hours and hours. So everyone needs to get your book, especially here in Palm Springs.
November 18th, correct?
Yes, I'll be there at a wonderful bookstore. And it's a gift store and bookstore, I believe.
It's fabulous.
Yeah, it's just fabulous. It's a great store.
Right on the main drag.
Yes. Yeah. Please come to Just Fabulous. I'll be there on the 18th and we're going to have a great time.
We're going to get a lot of people there.
We will.
For sure.
So
thank you.
And so wish you the best. Thank you so much for joining us.
We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. It's been a joy for me too.
All right.
Wonderful.
Best of luck.
Take care. We look forward to seeing you in Palm Springs.
I can't wait.
Okay.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.